Hi. Well, Alex, welcome to the 20 something podcast.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me. So I'm Alex Smith. I'm a chiropractor. So I own and operate Metaspine Chiropractic. It's in Greenville off of Roper Mountain Road. So the beginning of my 20s, I would say I was way more serious and I had fun, but I probably didn't have as much fun as I should have in my early 20s. I always knew, like, it was in my heart that I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to work for myself. You don't have to do anything for the rest of your life. That's a choice that you make. If it makes you feel good, why would you ever stop doing something that makes you feel good?
Well, Alex, welcome to the 20 something podcast.
Thanks. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be here.
Yeah.
So I'll have you give like a little intro, tell everybody like your brief elevator pitch, who you are, what you do, and then we're going to rewind to your 20s. We're going to just work our way up from there.
Awesome. All right. So I'm Alex Smith. I'm a chiropractor. I have been doing that now since 2020. So started right around COVID-ish time.
Perfect time.
Yes, had lots of time to study and do whatever because nothing else was open.
Right.
But yeah, made it through school, covered for a doctor right after I graduated while she was on maternity leave, and then went right into opening my own practice.
Wow.
So I own and operate Metaspine Chiropractic. It's in Greenville off of Roper Mountain Road. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And how long has that been open for?
So I opened technically October 1st of this past year, which was 3 days after Hurricane Helene.
Yep.
That made my first month open very interesting.
Yeah.
Nobody even walked in the first 2 weeks, and then I only saw a couple people for the rest of that month.
Yeah.
And then we went right into November and December, which are holidays.
Right.
Tend to be a slow time,
Yeah.
for every industry. So yeah, first 3 months, I'm just calling that my 90-day free trial.
There we go.
January 1st of this year is what we'll say was my initial opening, and it's been growing quickly since then. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So you're a chiropractor, you own your own practice. Let's go back and figure out how you got there.
Okay.
So wherever you want to start, whether it's right at age 20 or if it's like where you went to college or yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Take me from the start to now.
Awesome. All right, we'll start in college. So I went to Clemson University.
Okay.
I went to high school in the Greenville area.
Okay.
So then there was a couple things happened before I actually ended up at Clemson. So I got into the Naval Academy and went there for a little while. Did not like it. It was not for me. So I decided to leave and I transferred to Clemson and then ended up graduating in 2014 from Clemson with a Bachelor of Science in chemistry.
Okay. That's psychotic.
Yeah, it was a little psychotic.
Yeah.
I don't really know why I did that. It was fun for the first couple years, and then afterwards it got really hard and weird, things that I didn't care about.
Oh,
so, but I started it, so I had to finish.
Right.
So yeah, Clemson was great. Endless energy at the beginning of your 20s, but you think you're invincible. You're doing all the things all the time at all hours of the night and during the day. And I was good at it, good at multitasking. And so when I graduated, I was training full time, personal trainer.
Okay.
And I was like, I love it. I loved it. I still love it, but it wasn't what I wanted to do, as a full-time job for forever. So I said, what do I want to do? And I knew that I always wanted to serve in the military, and I had left the Naval Academy. So, that didn't really count as service. So I said, let's make it count. So I joined the Army.
Okay.
Yes. And that was a great experience. I was intel in the Army. Did that for 4 years. I got hurt rappelling out of helicopters. So at least it was kind of a cool story.
Yeah, okay.
Right? They medically retired me, so I got out in 2018. And I had hurt my back. So full circle, that's how I got to chiropractic. But I still did a few more things before I actually realized that chiropractic was what I wanted to do.
Okay.
So when I got out in 2018, I decided that I wanted to get a master's. So I got a master's degree at Johns Hopkins in biotechnology.
Oh, God.
Also don't know why I did that.
Oh, my gosh.
That one was actually fun. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I cannot apply it in any way, shape, or form to the industry that I'm in now, but that's okay. And then I started chiropractic care, regular chiropractic care here in Greenville under my doctor, who's still my chiropractor, Dr. Molly Spawn Lee. And it was really funny, actually. She just, one day I was in there getting adjusted, and she had made a huge difference in my life. I was able to run again and do all the things. My back, was much better. And she was like, you should be a chiropractor. You have a cool story. you're good with people,
Mhm.
you want to help people for a living, like go do that.
Mhm.
And I didn't even really question it. I said, okay. And I applied and showed up like 2 months later.
Do you like school?
I do.
Okay, that
I
makes
do like
sense.
school. Yeah, so lots of degrees.
Yeah, I know. I've been in your office. I saw all of the degrees up there.
There's a lot of stuff on the wall.
Yeah.
I try to stay humble about it, but it's hard when it's like super in your face that
No, I
I've
mean, you
been to
worked
a
hard for
million
those
schools.
degrees. Put them up there. Okay, I'm curious though, what were you planning to do with your master's?
Yeah, so it was more just out of boredom.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought maybe like if I kept it in the science field,
Mhm.
which biotech
Mhm.
was at the time it was like a rising field in
Yeah.
science, and I had the chemistry degree, and I was like, okay, I can maybe like spin this somehow, put it together,
Yeah.
and it be usable.
Yeah.
And really just like nothing that related to biotech or even chemistry put me in a position where I could help people for a
Right.
living.
Okay.
So I just ultimately decided I didn't want to use those degrees. So
Okay. So you kind of always had that, like, want to help people.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you want to do with chemistry? Or was that just because you decided chemistry, you got chemistry?
Sort of, yeah. I had a pretty influential professor my freshman year who
Okay.
was a chemistry professor.
Okay.
Made the class super fun. I was always kind of a science nerd anyway.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna major in this.
Yeah.
So that's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool how much a professor can sway
Yes.
what you do. Because my chemistry professor made me switch majors. Actually, it's like,
I feel like I hear that more often than
oh,
my
yeah.
scenario.
Yeah,
but
if I like can't do Gen Chem 2, there's no way I can do OChem or Biochem or literally anything else.
yeah.
So
To be fair, OChem is the death of
Revert-
like everybody.
yeah, so they actually told me I was a dietetics major,
Okay.
and they told me I had transferred and I was trying to graduate in 4 years still, and they're like, if you want to graduate in 4 years, you have to take Biochem and OChem at the same time in the same semester. I was like, okay, what other options do I
Yeah.
have?
So what else can I do?
Which then, luckily enough, COVID happened, and then I was like, "Oh, I actually can't do anything anymore. So I'll just do something else." But yeah,
Yeah, it was an interesting time.
yeah,
For sure.
it was
Yeah.
crazy. Okay, so how much time was there in between your getting your master's degree and then deciding to go to chiropractic school?
A year.
Okay, what
Yeah.
did you do?
So I was just working. So I actually worked at a jewelry store.
Oh,
Yeah. So basically I was in sales.
Okay.
I got to work with people, but
Mhm.
I guess I was helping people,
Mhm.
get married or whatever.
Yeah.
But, keep their marriages running
Right.
via jewelry. But it was more, I just like knew some people and I had some time in between. So I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I'll do this for a little bit. I mean, it was
Uh-huh.
fun,
Uh-huh.
but definitely not something that I was like longing to do for the rest of my
Right.
life. So,
Right. What was your mindset around that? Because I feel like that's hard for a lot of people and the in between, like whether you're right out of college or in between grad school or whatever, it's like, I just want to do my dream. I just want to go into it. But sometimes you have to take that little gap where you just work and figure it out.
Yeah.
And I feel like the mental side of that is pretty tough for people. I mean, it's tough for me.
Yeah, sure. So it was tough for me.
Yeah.
And talking about my 20s, so we'll go back to that a little bit. I always felt like I had to be doing something super productive
Yeah.
all throughout my 20s, as you can tell. Tons of stuff, lots
Right.
of like formal education. The jobs that I had, I always felt like it needed to be like related or somehow could fit into like what I was doing in school so that on my resume it would look good and it could help me move forward. And I learned the hard way many times that it can't always be that way. Like
Yeah.
things don't just fall into place all the time.
Mhm.
Now, when it's what you're supposed to be doing, more times than none, things do fall into place.
Right.
But sometimes you do have to just kind of like take a break and just allow yourself to like live,
Mhm.
right? So the beginning of my 20s, I would say I was way more serious and I had fun, but I
Mhm.
probably didn't have as much fun as I should have being in my
Yeah.
early 20s. So on the back end, I did, I had some more fun,
Yeah.
but also I was like ramping up. Like I started chiropractic school when I was 28.
Mhm.
So we got back to being serious. So there were like a couple good years
Yeah.
in my 20s where I was really just like, okay, we're just going to roll with it, however it is, take it as it comes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really hard like mentality to overcome. Probably one of the biggest lessons that I had or that came of my 20s was to just have a good time.
Yeah.
Like, you have plenty of time to figure out life. And that doesn't mean that you can't still be working towards your end goal. But you gotta let yourself just chill for a little bit.
Yeah. No, I was the same way. Like my college years, I had a good time, but I was like very, very focused, very disciplined.
Yeah.
Whereas now, still the same, but I'm also like, okay, like I need to enjoy this time. Because you only know like when down the road, like someday you're gonna have a family, someday you're gonna have a bunch of responsibilities, someday you might own a business, and then you can't be not reckless, but like you're gonna have a lot more responsibilities as you get older.
Yeah.
And for me, that first part of college, I was like, no, I am doing all this because I'm going to be super successful and everybody's going to know it. And now I'm like, okay, who cares? Like,
yeah.
Slow down.
Right. Yeah. You can be locked in and still have a good time.
Yes.
Yeah. And I am realizing now too that, you know, in my 20s, like the definition of success was like money. You know, that's an easy thing, right?
Right.
It's still arguably, you know, a way that we measure success, just generally speaking, because money provides us freedom, which is the ultimate goal, is to kind of be able to do whatever you want when you feel like it. Like if I want to fly to Italy and eat pizza tomorrow, I want to be able to do that.
Right.
And your 20s is not the time to do that.
Right.
Don't be maxing out credit cards.
Yeah,
have
please.
a good time. But you know, your 20s is where you're just kind of figuring out how to be an adult because you've only been doing it for a couple years.
Yeah. Yeah, really. Adulthood really doesn't start till after college, in my opinion.
100%.
Even that first year after college, I just kind of felt like I was floating in a bubble. Just kind of getting pushed in every direction. I'm like, what's going on? I feel like 24 was when I finally was like, oh, okay, I'm an adult. Now it's time to let's figure some stuff out.
I know. Yeah. I always tell people it's 25 because that's when you have to get your own insurance and also when you can rent a car. So it's like your last your last like hurrah of a birthday actually provides me with something. And then after that, you know,
literally, don't remind me. I'm on my last like 6 months of my parents' insurance.
Oh, there you go. It's not that bad. You're right.
No. So you went right from covering for a doctor to opening your own practice. Did you always know you wanted to have your own practice, or what made you take that big of a step?
Yeah. So before I even started chiropractic school, I knew that I wanted to be a business owner.
Okay.
And that basically upon, you know, commencement and graduation that I would proceed with opening a practice.
Okay.
You know, I thought a little bit about associating, which is just working under another doctor. It's good because you can get experience, right? Hands-on patients.
Yeah.
You get to see a lot of scenarios that you don't come in contact with until you're actually in practice. And if you open your own business, no one's walking through your doors like day one, you know, hour zero. It's not like magically busy.
Right.
That's not the way it works. So there are pros and cons to both, but I always knew like it was in my heart that I wanted to be a business owner. I wanted to work for myself.
Okay.
I would say call the shots, but you know, being a business owner, I have many bosses and it's every single one of my patients.
Right.
But in a good way, in the best of ways. I love my patients.
Right.
But yeah, so, and I never veered away from that. I always just knew that's what I wanted to do. But the opportunity to cover for my doctor, a very cool full circle moment. You know, she was my chiropractor, and then the timing worked out really well where, you know, she got pregnant, and when she was getting ready to have her baby was like right after I graduated. So it was perfect timing for me to just like be in her office for her 3-month maternity leave and run the show, get lots of hands-on experience because she's a pretty high volume doctor.
Yeah.
And then be able to leave with tons of experience and tons of like hands-on, and then move forward to opening my practice. So it was great. We were talking about things falling into place. Yeah. That fell into place perfectly.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of how I knew like this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
What's the process of starting your own practice?
Oh my gosh.
Roughly.
So obviously graduating is the first part.
Yeah.
There are lots of like intricacies and rules, depending on where you open, right? But you have to pass all your board exams, which you take while you're in school.
Okay.
So there are 4 parts plus like an optional part. It depends on the state. So I had taken all 5 parts finished a month before I graduated, then I graduated, and then I have to get licensed. So you have to apply for licensure. Most states require some other like little tests that you have to take. Did that. It's funny, I actually got licensed literally the day before Molly had her baby.
Oh, wow.
So it was like perfect timing.
Yeah.
But then you have to find a space, right? Decide if you want to lease or own.
What do you do?
Leasing, I
You
lease.
lease.
For me, it's better. It feels like a better option because you pay rent and then everything else your landlord kind of takes care
Yeah.
of. Within reason. Obviously, there's small stuff. So found a space. Then you have to apply if you're going to do any kind of like build out or putting walls up or taking walls down or moving lights, all of those things. You have to apply for permitting for that, which takes forever.
Right.
The county is not fast. They don't care.
No.
I got my permitting, took a couple months. And then beyond that, you know, it's dealing with contractors and electricians and everybody that's like in and out of your office getting it made the way that you have envisioned it.
Yeah.
So it was cool. You know, I got to draw my own layout. My business coach looked at it, you know, and verified like, okay, yes, this is like suitable. But for the most part, you know, I did most of it.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then, other people build your stuff and you walk in there and you're like, looks great. You know, and you're just waiting for them to finish, right? It never gets finished on time.
No.
Which is fine. It is what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a business coach.
I do.
Okay.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that is a necessary part of owning a business?
100%. It is so integral to being able to function as a business owner. So you go to school to be whatever it is. In my case, it's a chiropractor. They teach me how to be a chiropractor. They do not teach me how to be a business owner.
No, they don't.
You take a couple business classes where it's like some overarching umbrella principles, stuff that you can Google,
Yeah.
you know, and then you have access obviously to like people who have done it before. So all the professors who are chiropractors that have owned their own business, they all have input. But yeah, a lot of like the day-to-day stuff, systems, flow of the office, when you should hire somebody, how much you should pay them, you know, what you should have in your office, what your fee structure should look like, how to deal with insurance, like all of these things that come up and you're like, I don't know how to do any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so you have just somebody in your corner who's done it and who is consulting hundreds of other doctors as well. So like he has a ton of practice. And he also is a chiropractor and has owned several different businesses and did very well doing it. So, you know, for him, you know, for me to hire him as my business coach and for him to work for me, quote unquote, you know, it was the best move that I could have made because I can email him at any moment and be like, I don't know how to do this. And he'll either know the answer or he'll be able to direct me to somebody who does know. But yeah, anybody who's opening a business, like it's a little bit naive for you to think that like you can do it without help. You'll always need help, whether it's from a business coach or a mentor or somebody, you're going to need help. You cannot do it by yourself. And that was another lesson that I had to learn too. I didn't learn it too hard. I actually hired my coach. I started in his coaching group when I was still a student. So that was good that I got a little bit of a head start, but I've definitely had moments where I'm like, I could do this. And then I'm like, why? I could just ask somebody. Like, that would be so much easier to just ask someone who knows the answer instead of me trying to figure it out.
Okay.
So,
Okay. That makes sense. And you answered my question, but I was going to ask if your coach was in your specific field, because I've heard a bunch of different things, but that makes sense that it would be somebody in chiropractic.
For sure.
Okay. Now, you said that you didn't go to chiropractic school till you're 28.
Yeah. 28.
Okay. For a lot of people, that's like the end of life. You know what I mean? Like 28 to think about, I mean, even me, right? I'm 25 to think about going back to school. I'm like, no, I'm too late.
Yeah.
Did you feel that at all? Did you have doubts going back? Did you like, what was that? And what was that process like for you?
Sure. Yeah. So I don't want to say I had doubts.
Okay.
But I definitely felt behind. Yeah. I felt like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm doing, like I have all of this other formal education, you know, and there are these people here who just graduated from college. Like they're 22 or 21 in some cases in my class. And I'm like one of the older students. The older students made me feel old, right? And I was always younger. So like I graduated high school early. And so like I was a year younger than everybody else, you know, with everything. And so going into that being like the older student was very strange.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this kind of sucks. I'm not going to graduate till I'm like 31. I'm going to be in my 30s doing like most people are doing this in their 20s. And you get over that real fast.
Yeah.
You realize it doesn't matter.
Right.
It doesn't matter the age. But I will say, I think that I kind of had an upper hand being a little bit older because I had all of this life experience. I had been in the military. I had gotten other degrees. I had other jobs where I was in management positions.
Yeah.
I just had life experience. I was married. And, you know, a lot of these kids really that I was in school with, they're great, but, you know, they were a lot younger than me, didn't have even a fraction of the experience. So like when it came time to deal with patients and, you know, talk to people and you have to be able to articulate things, you know, professionally, but also like build rapport with them. Some people had a little bit harder time with that.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, it was like, I've already been doing this.
Right.
Like, that's not a big deal at all.
Right.
Luckily I love school and I'm a nerd.
Yeah.
You know, so the school part of it was fine.
Right.
You know, but yeah, I definitely had like I said, it wasn't really doubt, but I was just kind of felt I was having a pity party. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm doing this so late. I'm going to be in my 30s by the time I'm a
Yeah.
doctor, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's like if somebody had the choice to go right after college or to wait until their late 20s, do you feel like it's better to wait?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Obviously, it's hard. Sometimes it's really hard to look forward and see like the bigger picture. And
Yeah.
I mean, I still struggle with that too. But at the end of the day, you get to enjoy your 20s a little bit more because
Yeah.
you don't have to be so serious.
Yeah.
Knowing that like that's still in your future, but you get to like enjoy, you know, the 5 or 6 years of your middle 20s, which are a really fun time. And then you go in with the experience.
Yeah.
And it just makes it that much easier. It really does. And I think I'm very thankful that I did it the way that I did it. And,
Yeah.
you know, it worked out the way that it was supposed to.
Right.
So
Do you think that it makes an impact financially if you go right away versus if you wait?
yeah, of course. But I mean,
Yeah.
there's always going to be a financial impact.
Yeah. Oh,
So it
yeah,
almost
obviously.
doesn't matter. You know, if you're taking out student loans, it's the same amount.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like each year they go up a little bit because of inflation
Right.
or whatever. But it's the same student loans that you're going to take out at 23
Yeah.
versus 29.
Right.
So it almost doesn't matter. But I will say, like, there were a couple people in my class who were older, you know, around my age or even a couple years older than me, who had done really well financially, like saving, and they were able to pay for most of their school just
Wow.
like out of pocket. So
Yeah.
they didn't have a whole bunch of student loans
Yeah.
on the backside because they knew, like, hey, you know, I need to have money in savings or whatever. And so when it came time for them to make that career change and go back to school, like they were able to sort of financially,
Yeah.
you know, bear that rather than
Right.
taking out $200,000 in student loans.
Right. At age 21, because you're allowed to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really wild, but yes.
Okay. I'm curious to shift the conversation a little bit to
Mhm.
hear your thoughts. And I know we talked about this a little bit with John the other week, but chiropractors get a bad rap.
They do. I know.
So what, like, tell me your opinion on that. Talk to me about that a little bit because, I mean, I don't have an opinion.
Yeah.
I've been to a chiropractor. I was a figure skater growing up. My figure
Okay.
skating coach was a chiropractor. She literally adjusts me on the spot sometimes. Like, I've never had an opinion, but I know people who love them, people who are like, no, that's worthless.
Yeah.
And the most common thing I hear is like, chiropractors don't like fix you. They keep you so that you have to keep coming back and back and back and back. So what is the actual, like,
Yeah.
tell me about it.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with people who, most of the time, who talk poorly about chiropractic just don't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
It's out of pure ignorance where they're just, you know, they heard somebody else say something. They're basing their opinion off of someone's bad experience that is, you know, few and far between, right? Most people who go to a chiropractor continue to go to the chiropractor frequently and regularly because they love it, not because they have to.
Yeah.
So it becomes a part of their life, just like going to the gym or getting weekly massages. You know,
Right.
just because you get a massage every week doesn't mean you have to continue to do it for the rest
Right.
of your life. You don't have to do anything for the rest of
Yeah.
your life. that's a choice that you make. And so most of my patients, have shifted over. Well, not most. They're constantly evolving, right? But we shift them over into wellness, and people don't really question it.
Yeah.
They just say, I want to continue to come here
Yeah.
because it makes my body feel good and it's part of my routine.
Okay.
So I'm just going to continue
Yep.
it. And so, like, if people ever question, I'm like, why, if it makes you feel good, why would you ever stop doing something that makes you feel good? Right. And when you put it that way, like, duh. It makes
Yeah,
sense.
no, that makes
Yeah.
total sense. When
Yeah.
you put the wellness word in it, it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Just like anything else in just like going to the counselor
Yeah.
every week.
Yeah. You got to change the oil in your car.
Yeah.
Like, it might run just fine, but you still have to maintain it so that it continues to run well. Otherwise, it eventually will not. And that's kind of the premise behind wellness care with chiropractic. If you continue to come however frequently, it doesn't have to be every day, right? Once a month. Just those are your checkups, just to make sure that everything is still moving the way it's supposed to, that you're doing well, that we don't need to like increase frequency because you fell off a roof, which you'd be surprised it happens. People are like, I don't need to increase my frequency after I fell down the stairs. Yeah, you do. Let's get you back to where you need to be.
Probably.
But yeah, so you do that, then down the road, you have way less problems, right? Because you've been keeping up with it your whole life. So your Toyota Camry is going to run 400,000 miles if you keep up with it. But if you never change the oil, it's probably going to die at 50 or 60,000 miles.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long does it usually take to transition a patient into the wellness?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The healing window is about 90 days.
Okay.
On average, give or take, depends on the person. Obviously, we have an older person, who's been through more life, more wear and tear, lots of trauma. They've been in 1,200 accidents. You never know. Probably going to take them a little bit longer than someone who is 12, right? And has never been in a car accident,
Right.
young, they heal fast. But 90 days is pretty average.
Okay.
So that's about how long it takes for everything in the body to heal, because cell turnover happens every 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
So all of our old, like, crusty cells are dying off, right, and replaced with new cells. So the idea is that you get as much frequent chiropractic care, consistent chiropractic care during that healing window. Okay. That by the time you get to that end of the 90-day mark, you're in a position where your body is functioning optimally. Any issue that you have coming in has had the full 3 months to heal, and we can now transition you over into wellness, where your frequency becomes less frequent. Yeah. Right? Still consistent, but less frequent. That way, and you become wellness.
Okay.
So.
Is it a different type of adjustment in the healing versus the wellness, or is it basically the same?
It's basically, so at least for my, my technique that I do, it's pretty much the same. Okay. So I am more of a principled chiropractor, so I am not going to adjust the same thing every time you come in, right? We do x-rays. I do x-rays on every single patient that comes in within reason, right? No pregnant patients, no children. Right. But everybody in between, just so that I can see what I'm looking at. But ultimately, that picture that I'm taking is one moment in time, right? So the moment you leave my office and you get in your car and drive and you go work out and you sleep funny on the bed and you come back the next day, right, your picture would probably look a little bit different because you've been moving around, right? We are ever changing beings. So my palpation and my analysis that I use with leg checks and whatnot, when the patient is actually face down on the table, tells me what I need to look at in that moment. Okay. Right? So they get what their body needs in that moment. Okay. So if you came back tomorrow, you'd probably get different adjustments.
I see.
But wellness care doesn't really, I'm doing the same thing. The only difference is that instead of seeing me once or twice a week, you're going to see me every other week or every third week or whatever your frequency is. You're just getting it less often, but you're still getting the same caliber of care.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Kind of like a massage again.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit different every time, but basically the same
100%.
process. Okay. Shifting to the business side.
Okay.
What has been the most challenging part about opening your own practice?
Ooh. All of it?
Okay. Fair.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. So I want to preface this by saying that I love it. I love all of it. I love being a business owner. I love being challenged and learning new things. And every day is something new. Yeah. Right. But that's also the hardest part, because every day something is different. And you're like, what fire do I have to put out today?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even say that that's a bad thing. Like, I think people correlate like problems or, whatever that happen in businesses to be bad. I don't view it as bad. It is what it is, right? You take care of it. And then if it happens again, you know how to deal with it. But, inherently we like to place like good or bad on something.
Yeah.
But I guess if I had to pick one thing, I would say marketing generally.
Okay.
Yeah, for me at least.
Yeah.
Some people really love marketing. I do not.
Okay.
I don't. I'll go out and talk to people, but I'm not a super pushy person. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to be like, come see me and then text you every day. And, I'll throw it out there and be like, I'm a chiropractor. Look, if you need me and something's bothering you, here's my card.
Right.
Like, use it when you need it.
Yeah.
Come see me. And that is all fine and dandy, right? But you have to be a little bit more like aggressive.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning, because you
Yeah.
want more people to come in because you have to build your practice. You got to pay off your loan and all of the stuff that you put in it that's not with your money. So that was probably the biggest struggle for me.
Okay.
And I still struggle with it somewhat.
Yeah.
But I'm way more of like, I would rather just walk into a business and hand out my cards and talk to you, right?
Yeah.
Because sending out flyers or something, while it's great, people don't know you.
No.
Like, they're just seeing this flyer and it's going to go in the trash 90% of the time.
Right.
So I try to get out there as much as I can and just involve myself in things that I love. So right now I'm like gym hopping, which I don't typically do that. But I like athletes and, athletes typically, or people who are really active, need chiropractic care.
Yeah.
It helps them recover faster. Their body's going to stay more symmetrical so that, if they're lifting weights or whatever they're doing, they're just going to get better results in the gym. So I go to a lot of different gyms right now and just talk to people and, establish myself as like, hey, I'm Alex, the chiropractor. Like, I hope people think, when they think of me, they think, oh yeah, that chiropractor.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want them to associate with me. Like, oh yeah, she's in good shape and she's a chiropractor. So that's kind of what I'm going for. But that's a little bit of a slower process, right? Getting out and about in the community, because community is not small.
No.
Lots of people to talk to.
No.
So
yeah, I think that's the best way though. Like in my opinion, when it comes to marketing, people buy into who's behind the brand, not the actual brand.
for sure.
Especially because there's how many chiropractors in Greenville? There's how many gyms in Greenville? There's literally multiple of everything.
Yeah.
So it's really not about this. Anybody can go anywhere to get the service. It's more about who is behind that service.
Right.
And I feel like marketing is starting to shift in that direction a little bit, especially with social media.
Yes, so much. We dabble with reels now.
Yeah.
I never made a reel until I opened a practice.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've actually had several people who are like, I've seen your Instagram and like your personality really comes out in the reels that you do. Like, we love them, even if they're like goofy and there's at least some like little blip of information in there where it's like something. Here's something educational.
Right.
But I want it to be fun, and I want you to know that I'm not just like a stick in the mud. Like, I'm a person, and at the end of the day, the goal of my business is to make money, right? Because that's any business. It's there to make money.
Yeah.
But I'm really more about like, I want you to feel good. I want you to be able to come to my office and feel comfortable to like hang out, talk to me about whatever, and leave feeling better than you walked in.
Yeah.
If I can make a difference in your life in some small way,
Yeah.
then that's what I'm about.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think people want to go in somewhere the first time and already feel comfortable. Like they've been there, like they know the place and the people. And that's what we kind of try and embody at Crunch, at Taylor's, is so that anybody that walks in, they already, like, they recognize the front desk, they recognize the trainers, they kind of feel like, oh, I haven't been here, but I have been here.
For sure. Yeah, I love your reels. I mean, obviously I go into Crunch, so
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
but like seeing the reels is so much fun.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So
We have a good time.
yeah, I can tell.
So to kind of tie everything together, looking back on your 20s,
Yep.
what do you think? You've talked a little bit about some of the important things you've learned, but what do you feel like is the most valuable thing that you learned in your 20s that you still take with you today? To put you on the spot.
Yeah. Probably the biggest thing is that don't take life so seriously. Be serious. Make goals, stay organized, but you still got to live your life.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on around you, and don't let it pass you by just because, you're super focused on one thing in particular. You can do both.
Yeah.
And that's going to carry you really far because, at the end of the day, your livelihood is really all that you have. That's all you're taking with you
Right.
when you leave the earth is that. So you want to keep that.
Yeah.
And let everything else fall into place around that.
I
And
totally
if you
agree.
do that, you're going to maintain that authenticity that people are looking for.
Yeah.
Especially with social media, it's great, but a lot of it's fake now.
Mhm.
And so if you are just you,
Mhm.
and people see that, like, oh, I see you on social media and I see you in this business,
Mhm.
and like I know you when in your 20s, whatever,
Mhm.
and it's all the same. Like, it's just way more genuine,
I
and
totally-
it makes everything much easier. A little bit of a slower build, but much longer burn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, where can people find you, follow you, support your business?
Yeah. Metaspine Chiropractic on Instagram, and Facebook.
Okay.
All the stuff is the same.
All the stuff.
Yeah. Instagram just gets posted on Facebook.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm off of Roper Mountain Road.
Okay.
In Greenville, South Carolina. So check me out, metaspinechiro.com. Really
Perfect.
easy.
All right. Cool. Well, I'll put all of that in the notes so people can check you out. But thank you so much.
Thanks.
for
I
sharing.
appreciate it. Thanks
Yeah.
for having me.